Today in this video, I'm going to show you how to make some really delicious collard greens. Stay tuned. Okay, so what are collard greens? Well, it's just a leafy vegetable that grows similar to kale, Swiss chard, and they're really, really delicious, but you have to cook them low and slow. If you cook them fast, they're a little bit fibrous and a little chewy. So oftentimes you're going to see them in the South braised with a ham hock or bacon, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So what we do first is we start with our collard greens, we take them off the stem, we rinse them really well because they get a little dirty, and we're going to cook them with a little bit of onion, chili, vinegar, ham hock in the oven, 350 degrees for about 3 to 4 hours until that meat on the ham hock really just falls apart. We're gonna break it all up, mix it together, and we're gonna plate it up, and it's so delicious. But I must warn you, this recipe is not healthy, but it is very delicious. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's get started. I picked up some beautiful collard greens and onions at the farmer's market last week, and I'm gonna just braise these babies off. First step is you're gonna peel them away from the stem. Just hold the stem with one hand and use your fingers to just rip the leaves off the stem. This happens really, really easy. You don't wanna eat that stem, it's really chewy and fibrous, it's not so enjoyable. So make sure you just remove the leaf part, and we're gonna give them a quick chop. If you leave the leaves whole, they're gonna be really messy and hard to eat. So just give them a rough chop. It doesn't have to be a perfect dice. They're cooking for so long, they're just gonna melt down and you're not gonna really notice. You just wanna give them a rough chop. I place them in a plastic bucket and I just run cold water under them. That's gonna clean them, and it's also gonna kind of crisp them up. They were sitting out all day in the farmer's market. They're a little soft. This cold water is gonna bring them back to life. So now we're gonna chop up some onions. The onions, don't worry about doing a perfect dice. Just do a rough, large chop. They're gonna be cooking for so long that they're really gonna just kind of melt in with the greens, as you're going to see here soon. So I just give a couple rough chops. Make sure you peel the onions, of course, and you're going to be totally fine. Now what I do is I use bacon fat to cook these onions. That's kind of the secret. It's super unhealthy, but that's what I did here. I used about a 1/4 cup of bacon fat, and I add the onions to that big pot, and I cook them under medium to medium-high heat. In the beginning, I added a lid, and that helps the onions sweat and become translucent, and that develops a nice layer of flavor. So once those onions are getting a little bit soft and translucent, you can go ahead and add a little bit of chili. I'm using Aleppo chili. You can use any chili you have at your house. I mean, it could be those pepperoncinis that you put on pizza, or any kind of chili. Just a little bit of chili adds a nice flavor. Go ahead and add your ham hock, and just warm that up just for a couple seconds. And now we're going to add our collard greens. Now the collard greens have been rinsed. Don't worry about drying them. Just add them straight to the pot. We're going to add water anyways, so don't worry about drying them. So add all of your collard greens, and now we're going to add some apple cider vinegar. I add about 1/4 to 1/2 cup. You want to add a good amount because it needs that acid, and you can always adjust later. So don't really worry. Just add a little bit to begin with. Now I kind of pat it down a little bit. Make sure those collard greens are starting to cook and wilt just a little bit on the stovetop. And I add about 1 cup to 2 cups of water. Now once I add that water, cover it 350 degrees. Check it in about an hour. Now you can see in an hour, not much has really happened. Those greens are kind of starting to cook. There's a whole lot of water and liquid, which is a really good sign. You don't want them really dry. If they're dry, just add some more water to them. Now these have been cooking for about an hour. We're going to go for another 1.5 to 2 hours. So let's check them in 2 hours. And this is what they look like in 2 hours. All that water evaporated. That ham hock is totally spoon tender. And those collard greens kind of are glazed by all the fat from the bacon and the ham hock. And that onion is just melted down and sweet. That's exactly what you want, and that is perfect. Now let's plate it up and eat it. Now, as with anything, before you plate something up, make sure you taste it and it tastes great. If it needs more acid, add some lemon. I added a little bit of lemon to this. Add more vinegar, add more salt. Make sure you just add little by little until it tastes great like these. And these were so good. Well, this recipe is great in addition to Thanksgiving, Christmas dinners, or a big dinner where you can just help yourself to just a little bit. You're not going to want to eat a huge bowl of this, but it is so incredibly delicious. The key is that smoked hock really has to be salty and smoky and fatty, right? And that's really going to give you all the flavor once you cook it low and slow. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos next week, guys. Thank you.